Okay, I'm going to be making a custom roof skid for my OutCast 4S. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this piece of plastic, and I'm going to cut a little section that will hopefully overlay right over like that. And then I'll put some design on it so that it actually looks good. And I'll probably bolt it down on that and in there. Here's the design I've come up with. So I'm going to have two rails going across, and then these main rails, and then everything scribbled is going to be gone. So it's going to be like an H, but with two bars going across. And I think it should do its job, but also still look decent. For measurements, I really just kind of lined it up how I wanted it on the truck. That's a 1/2 inch there. These bars are 3/4 inch each, and then the skids are 5/8 wide. Okay, so I did a little bit of, I cut those out with my router bit on my Dremel, and then once I got them just roughly cut out, as you can see, then I put it in the vise and used a wood file and just kind of really finished it up into how I want it to be. So far I've only done the top, but I'm going to do the middle, and before I cut this bottom piece out, I need to see how it's going to line up on the body to make sure I can get my screws in. I got carried away off camera, but what I've done so far is I got that. You'll notice I thinned the middle because the body is arched, so that it leaves like a gap in between there. And also be a little more flexible so it can bend with the body when I screw it down. And I've also kind of tapered the ends of it to make it look a little better. And what I'm in the process of doing right now is right here, it's hitting at the roll cage, so I'm trying to thin it down right there so it sits more flush with the body. But I'll say Dremel is definitely a lifesaver when it comes to doing this stuff. So I've done some thinking, I've changed my mind. So originally I had it where this was kind of overhanging, you can see right there. But now I'm moving it back a little bit. So it's going to be even with kind of that body line you can see right there. And then it's going to go back to there. And so what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to make this gap bigger. And I'm going to make a strip the same width as that one right there. And then there will be screws that hold it in. We'll probably do 2 screws that hold it in there too. So I got my lines drawn up there and there, just refreshed. So kind of this is what I'm going to take out right there. And just to clarify one more time, this strip and this strip are 3/4 inch wide, and then these are 5/8. So just so you guys know, if you do end up making this, that's the dimensions. And at the very end, I'll just tell you what it ends up being, just so you guys know. Okay, so I got that middle piece removed, and then after that, I just filed it up, cleaned it all nice again, and then I was ready to get it mounted on the back of the truck because it has those holes that I'm using, and I'm using the front holes. And so what I did is I actually took a little itty-bitty drill bit, this one right here actually, and I put a little like yellow like tire marking stuff, I don't know what to call it, it's kind of waxy, and I kind of just got it all over the drill bit. And I put it on the bottom side of that hole, and then when I held it in place and just kind of turned it, and it marked the bottom side, and I was able to get a pretty accurate mark that actually turned out really well. And so I got one screw done, and again, like I say, it was actually a pretty accurate method. If you had to, you could take the back rack off and get everything done so it was picture perfect. But again, this was actually pretty good. So I've got the second hole drilled, and I just did the same method to get the first one. And then I took the back rack off, and now I'm going to screw this on. And then once it's screwed on, I'll be able to just drill it normally from the back side with, just using a regular drill and not having to mark it. Okay, I just got my third hole drilled, and what I'm thinking about doing is I'm using these screws to replace the stock because they're not long enough, and they're countersunk screws. So what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and find a drill bit so these will kind of set in and actually look good, give it a nice finish. So I just found the drill bit that looked the right size, and then I just eyeballed how deep I was going to drill, and now they sit nice and flush, and it leaves more screw to grab into the back rack, so then it's just, fully, all the threads are grabbing, so it won't strip out as easy. And then what I think I'm going to do is, before I mount it back on the truck, I had thought about drilling holes and mounting it to the body. But I don't know if I'm going to end up doing that. I'll just have to see. But for now, I think I'm just going to clean it up, do some sanding, and just make it look a little more professional, not these rough edges and everything. I got the sanding done. I started at 100 grit, went up to 220. You guys could go higher. It's just up to how you want it to look. It's a roof skid. It's going to get scratched, so I wasn't too concerned with that. And then, so one thing that I think I could have changed up is this rail. I probably could have moved it back a little bit, which would just even it out, made it look maybe a little bit better. I don't know. This strip, I thought maybe I should have made that wider. But at the same time, that gap there does allow, if you get dirt, which it's bound to happen, it can just wash out. And then as for bolting it and sandwiching to the roof, I don't think I'm going to do it because if I did, this rack kind of will move around, and since this is attached to it, I don't want it to be clamped to the body, and I have a feeling it could cause problems. I don't know, though, and I mean, it's pretty secure with those bolts. If I run into issues, I may, but for the time being, I think this will do just fine. If you guys end up making this, let me know. I want to know your feedback. Think if it looks good, what you guys think of it. Final dimensions, let's see, it's about not quite 3.5 long, and then it is basically 4 3/4 wide. And now, honestly, I wasn't doing many measurements. I was just kind of sketching it up to how I wanted it to look and how it set on the body. So honestly, that's the main thing I can tell you is if you do this, just kind of do it so it matches the body. Don't worry so much about measurements. Just go with how you think it should be. The one things I did do, these rails, again, they're 3/4 inch. This one turned out a little bit thinner, screwed that one up. These rails going that way are like 5/8. But other than that, that's about it. The plastic I used is about 1/4 inch thick. I don't know what type of plastic, but honestly, I think that's all you need to know. Just make sure you have longer screws. Dremel really helps if you're going to do this. Clamps for clamping it down. That's about it, though. And the wood file, that really helped, but that's all.